Thanks, buddy.
Oh yeah, now we're talking.
We have to wait for those to come back on, right? We don't touch them, right?
All right,
Perfect.
we are good to go.
I think we are good to go. You got everything?
I hope so. We got a good assortment of
Yeah.
some saltwater components up here.
Absolutely.
We got some offshore rods ready to show.
We have quite the menu.
Yeah.
Quite the menu tonight. So, September 1st. Can you believe?
I can't. It's hard to believe.
It's been wild. 2020 has been something else.
It has. We got a great show tonight, though.
We do. Tell us what we're gonna talk about.
Well, you know, it's kind of piggybacks on. We mentioned in the last show a little bit. You guys went on a really great trip down to Stewart,
Yep.
Florida.
2.5 hours from here, south.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
on the
not
East
far.
Coast.
Spent some days down there, almost a week.
Yep.
Doing some great filming. You guys had some great fish catches.
Yep.
Can't spoiler alert everything.
No.
But we do have some awesome footage to show of a few specific saltwater topics that we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, and you know that helps lead into the show. I mean, that's, you know, when we were sitting around going, all right, well, we got this trip coming up, so hopefully we'll go down there, be successful in some of the areas and knock it out. And yeah, Jay and Nick, and they put some cool footage together, and the guys caught some fish. And
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Yeah. So that's going to lead into the topics we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
Some unique handle setups depending on what kind of build, maybe what kind of species you're targeting, right?
Yep. Try to get out of the box a little.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you look at some stuff and it's like, well, you got to do this with this, and that's it. That's the only option. It's like, no, let's expand a little.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And the same thing with your guide selection. We're going to be talking turbos, a little bit of roller guides.
Yep.
Maybe a little hybrid version or layout for both of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's going to be kind of cool, all depending on what reel you're going to be using.
It does. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. So, and then the last one is the big demo at the end. It's kind of one of my personal favorites for multiple things, and we'll show you. We've got a freshwater rod.
Right?
We're gonna take it offshore and maybe catch a sailfish with it.
Yeah,
You know?
again.
Somebody might go, wait, what? Got to stick around. I think that's what we're going to do. So, as always, we appreciate everybody joining. It is September 1st. We're doing Offshore Rod Recipes tonight. Got the man here. Hunter's with us. We got the guys in the war room. Of course, we're back here. We're going to do a couple cool things. Be sure, stick around. You know, I know you guys come for the demos, but you always stick around for the giveaways.
Yeah.
Because we're doing some giveaways, and also you might let the cat out of the bag on something near the end of the show, right?
We have a huge announcement at the very end of the show.
Yep.
So yeah, got to stick around for the huge announcement.
Yep.
You guys are going to have a sneak peek at something that no one else has seen yet. So.
Exactly. That's why you guys watch. So awesome. Is everybody ready to get this thing kicked off?
Let's do it.
I'm ready. All right, guys, let's hit it.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
Episode 59.
59.
I just saw that there, which, I don't know, we got 60 coming up. That feels like we might have to get your credit card back out.
It always is.
I feel like that's I don't know what the celebrate, like if you have a birthday or a wedding anniversary or something, what 60 is big. I don't know, it's like gold or platinum or diamonds or something. So I'm telling you, we're gonna put
whatever you want.
We might even put your credit card to the test there. All right, so we are going to do a unique saltwater handle system. Now, the reason I say unique is we spoke about this earlier. Most of the time, you're going to see a offshore rod build that might look something a little like this, you know? So maybe you've got an AFCO unibutt here. You've got your EVA here, and then you do a little trim stuff, and then you work your way out on the guides. But there's a couple reasons why you would use the unibutt. It's great for storage. This comes apart. You pull your collet nut out here, and this rod comes apart in 2 pieces. Guys in the big game world, they use it to store on the big boats. You can interchange these out if you want a curved butt, if you want a longer one, if you want a shorter one. They all fit into the ferrule here. So technically, you can break this down. Now, a reason that you don't see cork down here a lot is because you're in and out of rod holders a lot.
Right.
And of course, you get some big game stuff. The rod holders will wear on that cork real bad. I get that. I'm not going to try to convince anybody to put cork down here. Now, I like the feeling of cork. I'm a fly fishing guy. I like the traditional cork handles and on my inshore stuff. And
right.
Whether or not it's a full length, sometimes it's a split grip cork or stuff. But I think there's an argument for all materials, but I grew up with cork handles, and I think a lot of people did too, and especially in the saltwater game, I don't know, it's just become one of those standards, right? So instead of doing a unibutt here with the EVA and sticking to the book, we are going to slide out, and we're going to do cork there. So I mean, why not, right?
Yeah. So I see what you've done here is actually you've incorporated what we call a smoother slick butt.
Yep. As
your rear grip behind the rear seat. We've got our rubber gimbal back here, but you've also used cork as a foregrip,
yep.
Which some people might, not choose cork. That would be their first option.
Right.
Because typically cork comes in smaller diameters, especially inside diameters, right?
Absolutely.
Usually it's going to come with a 1/4 inch inside diameter. The OD is going to be a little bit smaller typically too. However, we do have these saltwater or heavy freshwater. You could also use it for a musky rod, catfish rod, right?
Because they come in a 10, a 12, and a 14
Correct.
length.
Exactly.
Okay.
Plus, we have a larger OD.
Right.
And the inside diameter is 1/2 inch, 0.500.
Yeah. Which
so,
like you said, you never see that. You're usually looking at a 250.
Exactly. So, and you can also build your own cork grip if you really wanted to out of cork rings,
Yep.
But these grips, the CSGLs,
yep.
I believe is the prefix for the part number.
Yep.
Like you said, 3 different lengths, and just being able to have that larger inside diameter makes installing this grip a breeze, so much easier.
For sure.
So, and you can ream these grips the exact same way. We'll go over that in a few minutes.
Absolutely.
But this setup here, paired up with our ALHD CRB reel seat in the blue, it's a sharp setup. I think you built this one right. You got a nice butt wrap on here, along with some of the blue under the guides. So it's a sharp, really nice setup.
Exactly. This is a 20, so we talk about sometimes, and I know we'll kind of reference it on the show a little bit, as what I wanted to do is work backwards a little bit. I like to know what reel I'm going to use, what line I'm going to need, things like that, and then I kind of work backwards to be sure that, okay, I'm going to be using like a Shimano Speedmaster 2, which is what we used in Stewart. That's got something that you can back it with braid, and then you can run monofilament on the top shot, which is what we did there. It'll also hold, depending on what model, you get 300 or 500 yards of 20-pound monofilament, which we typically run 20 on a rod that is made for kingfish, bonita, sailfish, things like that. So this 20 size, I chose it for a couple different reasons. This comes in, it starts at an 18, right?
Yep, 18.
18 and goes up. Does it go to 24?
We would go to 24. Yep.
Okay. So, and there's a number of different colors. You'll see it here. We've got red and silver and blue and a gunsmoke and black and gold. Like, it's really great for the offshore game because it's got, it's grooved here in the top. So, a fly guy seat would call that a mortised seat. Mm-hmm. It's got double locking nuts with Delrin inserts there. So I know the reel's not going to move once I get it in there. But I want to be sure that, because I know I'm not going to put like a 50 wide in this, I don't need a 22 or a 24,
Right.
but I don't want an 18 because then I'm starting to incorporate, this is a smooth butt 3. So they come in 3 sizes. So you have an SB1, or SB-1, -2, and -3. This is the -3. I just picked it because I like, the way it felt there. I think it's an 8, a 10, and a 12 inch.
Correct.
So this is the SB-3. It's the 12 inch, and I feel like it, it made it up well here. I did do the down locking here, just because when I turn it around and do it down locking, it just fit the handle length that I wanted. You can adjust that a little bit. That buys you an inch or sells an inch there, depending on what way you run it. And then of course, it just kept a really nice profile. I think those lines are pretty clean there. Going from this size outer diameter to that size outer diameter on the seat, and then transition through there. So let's walk everybody through how to kind of put these together, because it looks a little different. We kind of took what is technically a rear grip, put it on the foregrip. The smooth butt is pretty standard there. But let's walk you through here, because you don't ream these. They don't come with arbors, but they do come with some winding checks and some other stuff. So what do you say?
Let's do that. And we also have some footage to show too.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to maybe cue that up, and you want to.
I got tangled up with a kingfish.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're on screen here, so let's roll this clip and let Chris walk us through what's going on with this rod.
We were fishing offshore of Stewart there. That's Captain Matt George. He runs a 22-foot bay boat. It's an Island Murata. It's bad to the bone. Nice. So you can see here, this is actually a power tip. So I went around the front of the boat there. There is a lot of butt and midsection power, because that rod is graphite all the way until the tip. And then you go to a glass tip, and that gives you the sensitivity. It's very, very soft, because we're using live bait. You run out pitching thread fins out after you catch them on a sabiki. And of course, you can see we were not targeting kingfish, because I'm running 40-pound fluoro with a 7.0 tournament circle there, because we were chasing sailfish. But I got the lucky, unlucky hand of dancing with a kingfish. And of course, we caught bonito. Well, we call them bonito. I know a lot of people from around the country will look and go, well, that's technically a false albacore, So
gotcha.
We call it a bonita, but yes, you guys can correct us there. But so yeah, that is the guy asking what blank is that. That is the PTSW 84M. So that is a 7-footer. It is an M, which is just the medium. It comes in a number of different. But the reason I chose that is because a lot of power in the butt and the mid, and then it's got the glass tip, because we're doing like a bump troll. So we are not in gear the whole time. We've got dredges out, and then we have 2 to 3 lines out at a time, which are just monofilament or braid to a 10-foot fluorocarbon leader to that tournament circle. And most of the time we bridle that bait, just so that the hook doesn't get twisted in his face. But that soft tip, it'll tell you when he's getting ready to get smoked, because that tip it'll really start humping, and that's your cue to have a look back in the spread, because I know Guffey and Taylor and the boys on the other boat, they had a billfish come in, check out the spread, they pitched to him and caught him. I just got to see one come in and look at our baits, kind of wave and carry on.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, all right, let's get down to the smooth butt, because there are a couple things that you guys need to consider here. The inside diameter of this smooth butt it has like a little bit of a swell here. So on the outer diameter, right? So this swell, actually it carries itself a little bit to the inner diameter. So it's not a perfect tube. So when you're doing this, and of course there are winding checks here that snap in and snap out, right? So you've got one here in the back and one here in the front. And that just kind of helps with your transition there, going from, your gimbal or your reel seat on the front here. I tend to use the little bit of a swell on the back end. There's really no right or wrong there. So kind of do as you see fit. But what I will say is, get this all lined up and put together before you put the gimbal on. The reason being is people forget this piece.
Right.
So if let's say that your gimbal,
And these trim rings come with
they do.
the smooth button.
You're exactly right. So let's say you have a doorknob, right, and it's on here, or you go with an aluminum, because we have the aluminums in a radius, right?
Yep.
And then we also have the ones that are flat, and they match all of the ALHD seats. So that's a cool thing there. Now, I typically, when I'm, fishing near shore, offshore, and I know we're going to be catching kingfish or cobia or sailfish, things like that, that you're not going to be locked into a chair, you're not going to have a harness on you, you're not going to have a belt on you, I go with the rubber gimbal. And there's a couple different options. This is a Fuji here. It's a little more radiused. I also like the CRB version here. It's a little more of like a castle style there. It gives it a little bit more of a flat spot, to kind of cradle against your body. But the best thing about that is you're not going to, you're not going to come home with this big giant bruise and cuts from the aluminum because you have the cushion of the rubber gimbal. But when you put it in a rod holder, the rod's not going to twist and turn because it has the cross in there for the gimbal to lock in.
Right.
So for those that know they're not going to be in a belt or in a chair, check out those CRB rubber gimbals because they really kind of add some versatility to that rod. Go ahead. So anyway, what you need to watch out for though is if you already mount your gimbal, no matter what it is, and now you have to come from the top here, right? So you got to work your way down here, and you forget this behind your first arbor. This will not fit over any of these arbors, okay? I know it seems very common sense, but we've all done it. Even when I was putting it together, I didn't get this late in the game, but I started to put an arbor here and went, all right, well, I either need to make the decision of not run the gimbal yet or do, because remember, with most of these gimbals, you're going to be putting an arbor back here. So if you forget it and try to come from this side, you can't get it on here either. So in a sense, you're going to be trapping this check in here because you're going to have a couple arbors here. You'll have this arbor here like that. So what I typically do is, because I run the kind of bulb or swell end, I come from this end because then it allows you to kind of lock it in and it helps follow the contour, right? Because this tends to be straighter and then it kind of bulbs in a way that these arbors in the back are going to be larger. So if I try to come from this end, I can't get it over it. So I'll show you there. What you do is, if you notice, I have a mark here. I just put a China mark there, and I put one here on the back. And all that does is give me an approximate space so that I know, slide this one arbor in here a little, and then when you run your final arbor out here, don't run it on the other side of this China mark because you'll be outside of it. And then just make sure you give enough room back here so that you can arbor up whatever section you're going to do. So when I'm running a little bit larger arbors, I do tend to put them in the old trusty RBS-Pro power wrapper. I always have it so it's spinning away from me. Make sure to double check my China mark there. And I did this all afternoon, so,
See how close you get.
that might be close.
It looks pretty close. And you didn't measure the space between the arbors, right? You just kind of estimate a little bit?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with running 3 over this length. There's a little wobble there. I could probably go around one or two more times.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So this one, you lock her up like that, right? Then you'll have your winding check here. That one snaps in. And then you can choose, whichever one you want. I'll just match up from the other one. And it does kind of create a nice, you can kind of see that trim ring there. I'm going to hold it down a little so I can show it against the shirt there. But that little trim band there, or a winding check, if you will, that snaps in, it kind of creates a nice transition piece there.
That's good.
So from there, what I do is, when you glue this up, this is one of those instances where I don't want to just assume everybody's like, oh, well, do you fill the whole thing? Do you not? What I tend to do is I will kind of stack the glue using Pro Paste. I'll stack the glue on either side here of each arbor, because remember, the arbors are just here to center this thing.
Right.
These aren't structural deals. But when you build glue around each one of them, they're locked solid. So I pretty much encapsulate on either side some glue like this on either side, and then I'll slide it on, twist it, kind of do its thing, and I will do the butt section, the smooth butt, and I typically stop. And because if I'm building a few of these, or we're building some for the mud hole boat, there's times where we'll build 2 or 4 at a time. So I'll build them, put them together, set them aside, and then I'll get my reel seats and stuff together.
Gotcha.
So, and then that way it kind of has, a chance for the glue to set, because when you have the smooth butt on here, because it is, it's kind of a large piece, where you're trying to work around it, you have a tendency to want to hold the rod like this while you're manipulating this, and you might work it back this way a little bit too much. You might, slide the fighting butt off a little, or the gimbal, or the doorknob, or whatever you got there. You might manipulate it just because you can hold on to it and slide the seat around or do some stuff. So either give it a couple hours or work on it overnight. I let this set up, and then I come back and I arbor up my seat and do that. Now, a lot of guys always ask, what are you arboring your offshore seats with? And I tend to mix it sometimes, depending on how heavy of a seat I'm going with. Sometimes I do use the drywall mesh tape, so it can kind of get in there, and it absorbs it because it is a mesh. But you know me, I'm pretty confident in the tape game.
Yeah, of course.
So I put that in there and then use the Pro Paste, and we're ready to rock. So let's talk about the cork.
Okay.
Because the cork is kind of a unique piece here. We got any questions or anything that we need to hit? We'll do that here in a minute.
Yeah, there's a couple good ones in there. A couple for guides that we'll hit the next demo.
Perfect. All right. So let me talk about the foregrip, because this is a rear grip, and it has a little bit of a radius here on the front, but it doesn't have like a foregrip radius. A lot of the times you'll see in a foregrip, for example, like this. Okay. This is a vertical jigging foregrip. I like this grip because it's got, a good shape. It has a smaller outer diameter. It works incredibly well on a spinning rod, like you'll see in a little bit. And then it tapers down here in the front. This being a rear grip, there is no taper to it. To be honest with you, I didn't notice any issue. We caught multiple fish on this. You can see it's put a little work in it. But you can take and round this nose off a little if you want, or if you do the individual cork rings, we do have large OD that have a large ID ring. Right? I don't know that part number offhand.
I don't either. You got me on that.
I was going to say there's about 2 dozen cork rings, different ones down there. But if you want, excuse me, if you want to do the cork ring route, what I would do is, if I do a fly grip, I typically will just do a, I'll stack them and then I'll ream them. I'll stack them, glue it, ream it, put it on the rod.
Right.
If I'm going to do something that's large inner diameter, larger outer diameter on a saltwater rod, I'm going to take and do each ring individual. So I've got the blank, with me here, either put it in a rod rack or set it on your table, and I'm going to take each ring individually, ream it, and check it to fit. The reason I do that is because when you're trying to take a cork ring and you're trying to continually open that diameter, and some of these offshore rod blanks are different. You know, they don't have a typical taper that you would find in a mag bass or whatever. They can be sharper or they can be very flat. So what I want to do is I want to be sure that my bond is very, very strong. You know, if you are doing a really large grip over a very sharp taper, you're probably going to have some gaps in there somewhere. It's just the nature of trying to ream like a 14-inch grip.
Right.
You can take this and cut it in half and ream in half and slide it down, kind of like you would do a Tennessee handle. But because I'm just putting this on like a 15 to 30 and running 20 pound with, you know, I think we run 4 pounds of drag on Sailfish and bonita and, you know, things like that. And then if you add to it, I just put my thumb on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're not running a 50 wide with super heavy line and super heavy drag. So I'm not worried about busting one of these corks up. But if you do it individually, do each cork and then put it in your RBS-Pro and turn it down as you see fit. So
Gotcha.
What I'm going to do though is I'll use this piece. And because remember, this is a rear grip. So what I did is I put it in the RBS-Pro. Nick, I'm going to turn this here, buddy, a little bit. Kind of come to you. How's that? Is that better? Super. All right. So what I did, safety first and then teamwork. All right. So I put it in the RBS-Pro and I cut this tenon off. So now we are tenon-less. All right?
Easy.
Yeah, pretty easy. Would I do that on the rod blank that I'm building? Probably not. No. You know, I did lean on that one pretty hard because I wanted to be sure that it had a very, very sharp edge and a sharp cut. So might throw that on a mandrel, or as you can see here, good old-fashioned scrap piece of broken blank that just so happens to fit it. So again, there we are, and now we've got a really nice cork foregrip.
Yeah. And of course, you could come in, and if you wanted to shape and put a taper on the front of that, might not be a bad idea.
Yep.
You could also do the same for the back if you want like maybe a little bit more flush edge to your reel seat.
Yep.
Yeah, easy.
Absolutely. So that's how you put that together. Just a couple little tips and tricks to kind of work your way through that, because I know a lot of people were asking. So, and then of course,
Finished product.
through the nature of cooking shows / we built it to fish it, not everything turns into a wall hanger around here. So there you go. I really didn't do much to this. I did turn the nose down here just a little bit. Not too much, but what I also think helped with this transition from this cork and down, this is the larger cone. So, of course, I probably should have wrote that part number down.
I think it is a, you got me on that one too.
Yeah, we'll put it in. If anybody's got a question, ask that into the group there underneath the video. We'll put it in there. What it is it's like a TWC, but it's like its big brother.
Yeah.
You know?
Call it a hosel.
Okay.
H-O-S-E-L.
Perfect. So that is just, has a larger outer diameter. It's got a larger lip on it. Whereas the TWC, it's a very thin, you know, which I'll show you on the other one in a minute. So yeah, that's what we use here. You see them a lot on the offshore stuff. And I just think that created a little bit nicer of a transition. And then of course, just I worked out and put the cross wraps here. I'm branching out, guys. Branching out from
You're doing good. You're doing
now, I
good.
still did use, you know, my old trusty 862 out here, the old black thread on that, but I did transition out. Another tip for the offshore guys while I'm thinking of this. So you have, we all know, you have color fast and you have regular nylon. When I'm using a 862 solid black thread as an overwrap over, colors here on the ends, over guide feet. If you use regular nylon, it will hide some of your, if you need to double wrap these guide feet. Because sometimes on some really, really heavy stuff, some guys will wrap up a roller guide foot and either wrap up and then wrap back, or they'll do 2 top wraps. So if you do 2 top wraps, if you want to do 2 top wraps and you're going to use black, use the regular nylon, because it seems to me like it disappears a little bit better. And then it just turns into a darker, richer looking black. So I also use that in some of my thread work because it does the same. It almost looks like I painted it, like it's got some pigment in it, but it's just the regular nylon. So that'll kind of give you a little extra tip there. So
Cool.
and there you have it.
Boom.
Cork in a foregrip for an offshore build. I really like this rod.
Yeah. It's a little more unique. No touch to it, so awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, those are the CRB Elite turbos that are out there, which we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions about guides, so we'll get to that in a minute. Guess we got to do our first giveaway, right?
Yeah, I believe we shall.
So for the first giveaway, we're going to do a custom, unique saltwater handle kit.
Yeah, like the one you just saw.
Like the one you just saw.
That's it. I figured it was something that, maybe some people haven't tried, or they didn't want to, there's not cheap parts in that handle,
Yeah.
Smooth butt, it's not too expensive, but it's not cheap. And then the cork, cork can be kind of expensive. And then those ALHD seats are very nice.
Yeah, of course, the real seat as well. We'll throw that in there.
Yep, we got the hosel piece in there that we'll find that part number. Yeah, so I figured that would be something that you could use for muskie if you wanted to do that. And then, of course, anything offshore, you're ready to rock.
Cool.
So give that
All
one
right,
away.
so first giveaway, the unique saltwater handle kit is Craig Hall from Facebook.
Sweet.
Congratulations, Craig. There you go.
Perfect. That'll work. All right, so we've got some questions here. Did we want to, so now what we're going to do, we're going to transition and do some guide placement. Do you want to do some questions now?
Yeah, let's start off with, I think Chet's got a good question here.
Okay.
Is it best to use an underlay, an underwrap before you put the guides on, or can you do it without? So Chet, when we're talking, bigger saltwater rods, it's always best to have those guides with an underwrap. Not really talking like, redfish rods or inshore so much.
Right.
We're talking, anything you're using off the beach, near shore, offshore. When you start using bigger turbo guides, bigger roller guides, that underwrap is kind of like a layer of protection. It's going to protect that blank from your guides, essentially. From, those guides will have a lot of pressure against the blank, and you just want that added layer of protection to kind of hinder that blow a little bit, I guess you could say.
For sure, because, like you said, if you're using, turbo guides, they got a big wide foot on them to go on larger blanks. You're going to put more pressure on them. There's going to be more downforce. You're just flat out putting more pressure on that blank, not only in the handle section, you're flexing it, there's more downforce on those guide feet, and it just gives you a little bit of insurance, I guess. Because anytime metal and carbon fiber meet, metal wins a lot. So, gives you a little cushion there. So,
what do you got? Got one in there?
Let's see. There's a couple, that we're going to get to here because we're going to work on the guide setup. I know a lot of people like to, do that. Ken has a good question. He said, will you be discussing the tuna rods? You see them on Wicked Tuna, or what type of rod blanks would you suggest? And I think we got something coming.
We do. We are working on some new saltwater blanks. I can say that much.
Yep.
It's going to be a smaller series to start with, but I can tell you it will be expanded pretty soon. So
Yep.
Those are, maybe 2 months, a month down the road, pretty
Okay.
soon here. So don't want to give away too many details.
Yep.
But they are on the way soon.
But Ken should be on the lookout for that. Now,
For sure.
I did see those are going to be in the Halloween flyer, but they'll probably be on the website before that.
Definitely before that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that'll be a great rod series. We tested them a little bit, and yeah, they're pretty stout for sure. So
I see another question. Does Mudhole have a shark rod? So a bit of bad news on that front. We did have a shark-specific blank, a 10-footer, I believe it was. Unfortunately, that is currently not available from our vendor. So that's, I believe, might be off the website for right now. Hoping to revisit that soon. Might have a little bit different model in the works. But that's not to say there's not one out there that you might use that could be a little bit shorter. Definitely, as always, reach out to our sales reps. Unfortunately, I don't have that exact question for you right now, but I'm sure we can find you a blank that would fit the bill.
Absolutely, and we are in the same, that same line that we were just talking about that we've been testing and whatnot. You will see a blank just like that make an appearance. It's pretty sweet. I had a 50 wide on it, but it really could take plenty more. So use that in conjunction with, I used it with an AFCO unibutt, so it's bad to the bone. So yeah, Richard, we can help you out with that for sure. It's not, like you said, it's not 10 feet and it's not labeled shark, but that doesn't mean, a lot of people, I think shark is getting a lot of, good press around it. You see a lot of guys catching it off the beach.
Right.
We did that. We put the drone up. You guys will see some of that coming soon. But we also knew that we probably were not going to tangle with a 14-foot hammerhead at that point. It's just not the right time of year and where we're at and what we were doing. But yeah, it depends on, are you shark fishing from a boat? Are you shark fishing from a beach, from a pier? Because, there's all different kind of, setups there that you could work through that, we could dial you in on a blank there. So, yep. Cool. Let's see. John's got a question real quick. How thin can you ream before you need to size up on your Cork or EVA? John, I'm assuming that you mean how much can you increase the inner diameter to get close to the outer diameter before you got to go up. All right, so in all reality, you could get very, very close to just, I'm talking like little. The issue is you're not going to be able to hold it to a point. So as you're reaming it, you're going to get to a point where you've got to go very slow. You might not even be able to put it in a power drill and power ream it like that. What I would do, let me see this guy. So as you are using your reamer, I would not just grab, you work your way up in size, right? And of course we've got a couple different sizes of the extreme reamer. We've got a couple different sizes of the tape reamers. So as you go up in size, you're obviously going to increase that inner diameter. What I would do is as you start to get, near the, what looks to be a breaking point, I would either go to the tape reamer or I would go to your hand reamer and not try to force the larger size into it anymore because you're going to be really chewing at that cork. And if you're trying to hold it like this, you're going to crush that cork from the outside. So what I would do is scale back in the size of the reamer that you're using and probably hold it horizontal, because if you turn it like this and ream at it from the top, you're really going to kind of strangle that cork and bust it. If you hold it like this, you can probably go, in like that and out and then rotate it like that. So you would go in and out like that and then rotate it, not using the drill. Now you could use the drill and just make sure you run the drill at a very high speed, but you're not digging at the cork, right? So what you're going to be doing is you're just going to be touching the inner diameter of that cork, going in and coming out. If you want to use the drill, do that, but just don't keep upsizing your reamer, because eventually that is what's going to tear and bust through the cork. It's not so much of, like that you can't do it, but almost drop down a size and use the reamer as like a sanding kind of a thing. So you're going to sand the inside with a reamer, not chewing at it like you would, so yeah, that's just.
A good question here is, are these rods good for big catfish? So we're going to touch on this in the last demo, but it's a great point. You know, just because it's a saltwater rod doesn't mean you have to use it for saltwater, and vice versa. So yes, any of the rods that we've really shown could be used for catfish or muskie or any type of larger freshwater fish. You know, don't let the category really influence your decision on if it's the right length, the right line weight, the right lure weight. It could be the blank for you. So don't be sold completely on the category that blank is in.
No, never. And how many times have we said, you know, a rod blank doesn't know if it's casting or spinning or bass or
Exactly.
whatever. So,
Yep.
cool. All right, I think we're going to talk about guides now, right?
Yeah, so I saw one of the questions was, you know, where would you start as far as your layout goes? Why would you pick roller guides over turbo guides? I know we have a hybrid version of that as well.
Yep.
But that really lends the question to what reel are you using, right?
Exactly.
So if you were to start off with, I know you got a pretty large reel over there,
Yeah.
but if you were just starting out with kind of a standard saltwater reel, or that one for instance,
Let's just get the big dog out.
why would you pick turbo guides in this instance?
So here is your 50 wide. So it's Tiagra 50 wide, it's the LRS. So when looking at setting up guides and whatnot, like I said, I try to work backwards from the reel that I'm going to be using. If you got this thing, hold on.
Yeah,
this
I
thing.
got it. Go ahead.
I don't want you to let her take a tumble. All right, going back to the rod we just had, okay, and I'm going to hold it out here.
Okay.
So let me back this up a little. If you notice how much taller, this is a roller guide, right? So the roller guide's here, and we've got a lower turbo guide here. So what you have to be cognizant of is when this line is coming off this. Now this is at full spool, right? Of course, it'll get down, but it's a lot of the time when, you know, we get that question a lot when you're looking at, you know, do I use regular height spinning guides? Do I use microwaves? Do I use high frame Fujis and all this stuff? This is kind of like that in a sense of you really have to pay attention to how the line comes off these reels, because this 50 wide is giant, right? So, but what we were running on this was just Shimano Speedmaster 2. It's also a round reel, but it's considerably lower. So, you know, the line might be down here, and it's going to come into, this is a size 20 turbo from CRB. It's going to come right into that turbo and work its way out, because we just use the CRB Turbo Elite guide set right out of the box. Ran it down to, I think those are 8s, right?
Those look like 8s.
I believe they're 8s. So back to, all right, I'll let you quit holding that. Back to working backwards, technically, is, all right,
Good.
So we've got this run out to rollers. This is 60-pound monofilament, and of course we also have to be aware that if you've got, you know, swivels, double lines, you got biminis, do you have a wind on, do you have a top shot? That's what you're trying to accomplish when you're trying to pick, you know, your guide set, working off your reel, working off your line. You got to be careful of your tip top and your runner guides and all that stuff. Whereas on that one, we had, let's take this down.
Okay.
On that one, we had turbos, because we're dealing with 20-pound monofilament. If they really got us out and they got us down to the braid was either 65 or 80, but, you know, then we're talking a diameter that's like 12 or 15, maybe 20, you know. So we're not worried about that in the turbos. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, all we do is go from 20-pound mono to 40-pound fluoro, and that connection there, even with a double line, goes in and out of the CRB, you know, Elite ring top. That's the MD or the HD, depending on. And of course, it runs through those runners.
Yeah.
So again, that's why we're choosing, that's why we're working backwards, right? So when you're going through the process, you're going to do the same, static deflection. You're going to do all of that. Now, with this guy, you have to be aware that, go ahead and you can kind of pull on that one. Now remember that power tip, see how fast it is out there? I don't know if you can get that. So that power tip is pretty fast because it's glass out there. Now if you notice here, we have a lot of flat rod blank to work with. And even when I was fighting that kingfish in the video, I had him pulled on pretty good, and I've also put my thumb on the spool because at that point I'm like, all right, come on.
Yeah.
Cut this 4 pounds of drag crap. So we can space it out in here. You've got plenty of room to work with here, and you also have to be aware of the fact that if you have a very moderate blank and you're fighting a fish and the reel is not very high, if you get too much flex, you can actually get the line on your hand, which is a big no-no.
Yeah.
So we were able to run this 20 out a little bit, and then even the next guide, we can push it out a little bit because I want my guides stacked kind of near the tip. As you can see here in that static deflection, you need to make sure you've got them out there to accommodate what is technically fast, extra fast, kind of,
Yeah.
Granted it's saltwater, but in the terms of, if we were dealing with a freshwater type blank, it would be closer to the extra fast kind of vibe. But so, again, that's we need to work backwards from the reel, figure out what line, leader, all that stuff. Then make sure you pick your rod blank, do your static deflection. If you've got a power tip style rod like that, you can push those guides out a little bit farther because you got a lot of flat blank to work with. So those are some tips there. Now, I want to show you guys how we mark the guides for Underwraps, how we mark them to run trim bands, because there's a few examples where, like here on these two guides, here in the, you'll notice we've got some trim bands here. What do you think? Is that going to get it there? Yeah. So I put a few, kind of a little bit of an inlay there. You can see I tried to get it right in the peak of that turbo. I think it looks good there. It's not like your regular spinning rod or casting guide that's a double foot where the ring is right in the middle, So your turbo is offset, so tried to put it there. But I just wanted to show you guys kind of how I set that up. Maybe it's not the exact perfect way, but just something that when you get your rod on your power wrapper, you really don't want to have to be going, okay, well, is that right? Let me measure this one and let me measure that one. So a few simple things. So when I'm doing static deflection and I'm getting my guide spacing set up, I do it somewhat crudely. I lay the rod out, set my handle, kind of, I go, okay, well, I want that piece there, that's going to be there, and I put some rough China marks on it so I know how this whole thing's going to lay out. Then I will actually take and lay the guides on their side, that one there, that one there, that one there, that one there, and look at it and go, okay, I'm probably going to need another one here.
Right.
And then, of course, with a rod like that power tip, I'll either have you flex it or I'll put it on a thing and make sure that I mark kind of the apex. So right where that blank bends over like that, I want to put a mark right there where it flexes over because I want a guide there. So I put a guide there and then I kind of go from there. All the while I'm like checking my spacing that we provide from CRB. But again, there's so much more that goes into that, and that's why we're walking through this. Now, all right, so I've got my guide, and there's a couple ways you can go about this. Again, this is how I do it. I put the guide on the rod blank, and I know that this guide is going to be in this area, right? I've made the measurements, I've taped it, done a static deflection, and now I'm going to make my final marks. Whoop. Going to make my final mark. Trying to show you and hold this is not as easy as it looks. And it doesn't have to be perfect, so I make a mark like that, I make a mark like that. Now, those marks are just the outside of the feet, okay? So that's the outside of the feet, and the reason I do this is because I'm going to be doing an underwrap on this. Now, your underwrap doesn't technically have to go the full length of the feet. It can actually overhang. It can come out. Because remember, your overwrap could also turn into a trim band. Your underwrap could also turn into an outer trim band if you want to run it out, you know, maybe a half or a quarter inch beyond these guide feet. Then you just start your overwrap inside of that and you let your underwrap hang out underneath.
Right.
So now you're not having to come back and do an additional trim band. But I typically don't do that, just for me, right? So I mark the outside of the guide foot, and that's where I'm going to do my underwrap to underwrap. And then when I start my overwrap, I just start just on the outside because I put finish on my underwraps. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. And I put a very, just a thin coat. You know, I'll use the Pro Coat medium build, or I will use Threadmaster Light, either one. And I put a thin coat, and what it does is it seals that thread. It creates a really nice flat spot for the guide feet to sit on. And then I also, when I'm finishing, I don't have to worry as much about trying to, you know, take and put the brush under here or work it up this way or make sure it gets in between the feet, which it's not so much of a pain on a 20.
Right.
But you start to get down to them 8s.
Yeah.
And it starts to get frustrating to try to get a brush all in between there. So it's kind of a little bit of a cheat kind of way. You put finish on it. Now I still work the finish all around the feet to seal it off, but I don't have to worry about so much getting it in here and then you stick it and get it on your ring or whatever. So do your underwrap like that, and then depending on what style of guide it is, I also put a mark just right here in the center. Now, when I say center, I mean the peak of this guide here. So because it's not always the same. For example, if you were doing one of these guys, that mark is off, right? You might not want it there. You might want it over this way a little more. Do you want it under the ring? Do you want it exactly halfway between where it touches here and where it touches here? Because remember, these larger guides, it looks a little different than when you get down to a size 8, and then your trim band can be a little off. Right. So anyway, I like to do it right in the peak. And then what I will do is, now that I've done all of them all the way out, just like that one, I can come in, and again, you're just going to come in here and start. Can you guys feel the pressure it's on now? All right. Trying to get it lined up so y'all can see this.
And you use size A for this?
Yeah,
right?
use size A for it. Now, you can, if you want, because I'm somebody that puts finish on my underwraps.
You can use D.
You can use D. But that's just if you put finish on it, of course. See, you know, I was perfect earlier, and then I got everybody watching. And I'm talking, which I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing. All right. Hunter, you're the thread man. You should be doing this. Right?
Yeah, right.
Come on.
I've seen those butt wraps you've been doing lately.
Yeah. I probably should have used a razor blade that I didn't just cut that tenon off with. Is probably what I should have done.
They'll do as I say, not as I do.
It's the mud hole live way, baby. All right, so you can run out here. Are you getting that? Oh, yeah. Let me turn it a little bit. So you can come out. Now you're at that mark. And then can choose you maybe some copper. I just chose copper because it will show up. But put that guy in. And then, of course, you guys have seen me do this on the show before. If you want to do kind of an inlay, I wrap over, then take this thread and you come underneath the one that's in the wrapper, okay? Now you are behind this blue thread, right? Then I grab them side by side. And I actually am pulling off of the wrapper a little bit as I go around, okay? And now I'm laying them side by side. And no, I'm not good enough to do this with a power wrapper, so. But the good thing is, with the ball bearings in this RBS-Pro power head, you don't have to pull the belts off. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You just lay it down like this. And then you see it kind of works the blue in there and whatnot. Now, when you're done, come back and make sure that your thread on your TC4 is tight. And then you take this and you go back underneath your standing line. That's what you want to call it. Let me roll this out here to you. So now you're using the blue to now lock down the copper, right? So, and again, I know this is messy. Please, bear with me. So, I'll get the burst tool. And then from there, you'll just run your underwrap out here. And the good thing is, I can still see that white China mark even when it's spinning wide open because I made it wide enough. So I can watch that mark go around and almost turn into a solid line. So if that's what it is, then there you go. And, then you hope you're on it and you're ready to rock.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
That's how you measure it. I know it's a little off center and whatnot, but again, we're doing it here.
Quick demo.
With bright lights and the cameras. So that's how you do it. And then, again, tie it off, finish it, put your finish on after you do all of them. And then you have kind of a cool, simple little inlay. Adds a little pop, doesn't get too crazy, and it's not all that time consuming, Time consuming is in that butt wrap and all that
exactly,
stuff.
Exactly, yeah. And even those can be knocked out in a decent amount of time. Sure. Let's do a couple questions here. I'm going to put you on the spot for this one. 50 wide pin international.
Okay.
Love to use it to troll.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a blank recommendation for a great all-around combo?
Man. I would probably, I love the unibutt system.
Okay.
So I'm probably going to pick something that is going to be an appropriate line class. You got 40 to 60s. And I like something that still has a little bit of length on it. Some guys are like, oh no, I love my trolling rod to be a 4.6, or I want it to be a 5-footer before it goes in there. I don't mind having a little bit more length. I don't like to fight fish seated. I enjoy having stand-up stuff, and I don't mind having a little extra. Now I'm not a big game guy, but I mean. I've been lucky enough to catch some big tuna on poppers, and we had 8-foot rods, and I enjoyed it. I didn't didn't really like the really short stuff. So I'm going to pick something that's still going to give me a little bit of length. You know, to pick a blank just right offhand, I don't really know. Now, Stephen, if you're going to run 50 on your 50, you know, keep that in mind. If you like to run lighter drags or heavier stuff, you know, I tend to like lighter lines and a little bit lighter drags, and I adjust them on the fly. You know, I put markings and stuff on the reel so I can, if I need to get down on it. So I don't have a blank just offhand, but again, you know, follow along in those, you know, blank sizes depending on what you want. Look for something in that 40 to 60 if that's what you do. Now, if you use that 50 wide and, you know, you run 80 on it and like to lock the drag, you know, that's pretty cool. I mean, then go to your 60 to 80 or 80 to 130 depending on what you're doing. You know, there's so many different ways you can go about that. So, but yeah, so.
Steve, when building an offshore rod, how do you go about selecting the correct guide set and the number of guides and insert? So a great spot that I would start is obviously you want to, like Chris mentioned earlier, you want to start with, are we doing turbo guides? Are we doing roller guides? Are we doing a mix of both, right?
Yep.
Luckily, on most of these saltwater rods, we are dealing with shorter rods, so there's obviously going to be less guides. Makes it a little bit easier. We're not talking about, you know, 13 guides on a 7.5-foot bass rod, so it's a lot better, right?
Now, I will say, I mean, that 7-foot PTSW probably has more guides than you typically see.
Yeah.
Because it is faster. You know, you have to take into account that soft tip, whereas like a number of these trolling rods, they're pretty moderate, and I mean, even. So this blank is probably what, like that overall rod is just over 6 something. I'm 6'2", so maybe that's 6'6".
Yeah.
So the blank is probably a 5-footer with a little bit of change, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guides and a tip. It's a lot different. Like you said, you're not going to have 13 guides on it. Now, granted, you're running, this is the adjust-a-butt, right?
Yeah. Winthrop. Yep.
So the Winthrop adjust-a-butt, running a 50 wide with 60 pound. And then, you know, of course, you got rollers and such. So the rollers give you a little bit of leeway because they're so tall.
Right.
So the height allows you to knock off some of these guides. If you went from a roller and you transitioned down to some lower stuff, you'd probably have to add 1 or 2 guides in there.
Yeah. And then to get back to your question, as far as the layout and the correct number, you know, we offer a lot of these guides and sets, whether you get a wind-on set from AFCO, already comes. We've got a 5 guide set here. Whether you go this route, whether you go a CRB Elite Turbo set as a kit, you know, we have spacing for these in our resources tab.
Absolutely.
If the blank / the guide set you are using is not in the resources tab, feel free to reach out to either our Facebook page, our guys and girls in the tech department, the
Customer service,
customer service.
All that.
That's what they're there for.
For sure.
They can answer those specific questions that you might have.
Exactly. And when you are doing somewhat of a hybrid style, like we've done on this one and others, you can still get, you know, a set and then just buy an individual roller.
Yeah.
You know, so that is what we did here. This is an individual AFCO roller. This is, I don't know what number that is. It's not a big one. So that down to the elites and the turbos, and those are actually 10s, and then run it to a roller out, you know? So do you want to show them the big dog?
Yeah, let's do that.
Why not?
So I know this was built for one purpose and one purpose only.
That's it. So we had this on the beach for sharks. But again, we were putting a 50 wide on this. We still used the CRB Elite turbos. We didn't run it down to 8s, but we used, this is a 47 here for the AFCO roller. And then when we were putting this together, you gotta account for the height of that 50 wide.
Right.
So the height of the 50 wide is not going to match up with your size 20 turbo. It's going to go from 50 wide to this 47 roller, and then we're going to run it down and then a roller out, because we're using 60-pound double line to weight to 270 or 300-pound single strand wire with 300-pound wind on, all kinds of ridiculous. So this is a rod we actually flew the bait out with the drone for the shark. So you can see this is a longer rod. I think it was 6 feet to begin with, and then I added an AFCO size 4 uniboat on it. So that's 20-something, 30 inches almost. So it's almost 8 feet. I mean, it's like 7'11". So, you know, technically we could legally crank with it, right? Oh, I guess they moved it to a 10-foot rod in bass, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It used to be an 8-foot. So yeah, you could technically throw probably a 6XD or a 10XD with this. But so anyway, yeah. So that is an instance where you've got a 50 wide. You're going to run monofilament. You can use the Elites. You know, anytime, going back to that one question about like picking line and picking stuff, the only time you really have to start to worry about what your insert is when you start getting into wire.
Wire, yeah.
You know, and Fuji has those silicon nitrides, SINs, and yeah, maybe you got to run a roller to some SINs and then run out. But using mono, using braid or top shot, you know, whatever you want. Run a hybrid system, you know, run your roller so it comes off the reel nice. The Elite turbos are fantastic. And then, of course, I ran it to the roller top just because fighting from the beach and being in it was in a vertical rod holder, I wanted to be sure that we didn't have too sharp of an angle coming out of that rod tip.
Cool.
So, yeah. Hopefully we didn't let too much out of the bag there with that. There'll be some stuff coming for sure. So,
all right, let's. You want to do another giveaway?
yeah.
So let's do a second place giveaway, or second giveaway that is the CRB Elite Turbo Set, which we've talked about several times, and it looks like we're going to include some metallic thread in there.
Yeah.
Since you did the demo with that.
Inlay and whatnot. Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
Oh, well, this is very appropriate right here.
Get out of here.
I like this. All right. So, second giveaway, the winner is from YouTube, Shark Teeth.
Perfect.
That's amazing. I didn't even say that until right now. So.
That's it. Awesome. Shark
Teeth
Teeth coming out of YouTube is going to get the CRB Elite Turbo Guide Kit and metallic thread.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
You can do so much with those turbos. I mean, we use them for all kinds of stuff. Anything conventional, you know, I don't get to do that very much. So when I was building those rods for that trip, I had a hard time getting away from the turbos, you know, just because I like them. They look good, they're very strong, they're consistent. You can do a hybrid system, you can do that. You can start them, you know, if you've got a taller reel, you start them at the 20 in it. If you've got a really low profile one, but you want that, you know, stronger frame, you just start at a 16 and then run it out. So it's a cool deal, and they look good on the rod. They kind of have a cool look. Plus, when you work under an underwrap in there and trim ring, and so yeah, can't say enough good things. And of course, they perform flawlessly. I mean, we worked on them pretty good. So, all right. Now, we are going to talk about something that maybe some rod manufacturers, if you have a, you know, store-built rod, might be like, no, we're not. You can't do that with that rod, or that's not. You're not allowed to. You know, you might void a warranty claim, if you will. But the good news is, not with this one. So we're going to talk about taking a freshwater rod, and we're going to run it offshore. I know the guys always kind of roll their eyes when I say that, but I love it because this is a rod blank that, I mean, we've caught a lot of fish on it. We've won quite a bit of money on it.
Quite a bit of money. Some
big
really
bass.
some big Florida bass.
Big bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even taken it to, you know, on Tennessee River.
Yep.
Alabama, Tennessee, thrown it up there on the ledges, big spoon.
Yep.
I mean, this is overall just a great, heavy, not really heavy cover, heavy duty rod blank.
Just anything
catch
and
big
everything.
fish.
And the diameter is still down. The weight is still low. You know, you can take a regular cork fighting butt, a wind grip butt. You can do, you know, you're not looking at, oh, okay, well, yeah, it's a powerful rod blank, but I can't find a reel seat that fits it. I mean, I want to say it takes probably, you know, I fish the ECSM, you know, or,
Of course.
but the, like a reel seat that it takes is probably only like a 14.
I think it's a 14, yeah.
You know, so it takes a 14. You don't have to go up another size, but when you get it in your hands, you're like, poof, this thing can bring home the bacon for sure. So I don't know, you know, Darren's always got that question. I know it's offshore, but what blank would be good to target large catfish, say 40 plus? I don't know. I've never pulled on a large catfish, like 40-pound catfish, but I would love to.
Yeah.
And I really think that I could probably take this FP937. Do we even tell them what
I
it
don't
was
think
yet?
we even know.
I
We
don't
haven't
think
got
told
to
them.
yet.
All right. So it's FP937, comes out of the Flippin and Pitchin section of the MHX. That is 93 inches, so that's 7.9. 7 power. I don't know how many X's in front of heavy that is, but it's pretty stout.
Very stout.
The good thing, that's a double extra heavy, 2X heavy. And of course, the good thing is, when we were designing it as a Flippin and Pitchin blade, you've got to have a little bit of moderate bend in a flipping stick because me personally, I know you don't want a telephone pole out there.
Correct.
Because if you just have, or guys will say a broomstick. If you've got a broomstick, you know, it might give you this illusion that you can pull, you know, a double-digit fish out of a mat. The issue with that is that when you set the hook on that huge fish, she pulls back, and you know you got Tina. When you go in there after her, because, you know, if she's in a thick enough mat, you're probably going to have to go in head first, dig a little bit. You have to be sure that you maintain pressure and bend in that rod. Otherwise, she's got you.
Yeah.
So if you have something that is too stiff and it doesn't have any flex in it unless you're just leaning on it, you're going to get slack in it, and all it takes is like 1/1000th of a second of slack.
Gone.
Goodbye.
Yep.
And then all you're going to do is go, you're just going to come up with a big wad of mat and a hook in it, and the fish is going to be gone. So with that being said, it also makes for a great saltwater rod.
It does.
So,
I mean, I know, of course, we're going to show a little footage in a minute and hear about a little bit of your guys' trip.
yeah. You know
But,
what? Before we start showing it,
Yeah.
I'm ready to see the footage. Guys, are you guys ready to see the footage? Are we going to run that now? Is that how we're going to do this? Let's do it.
I think the answer is yes.
Let's hype it up. I want to see it.
Let's go, Taylor.
It's like, what do you got? And then we jump. Whoa!
Hey, it's Taylor here with the FP 937. And why we usually use this for heavy cover flipping and pitching in the Florida lakes for bass. We brought it out here, deep sea, turned it into a spinning rod, and we're trolling live bait behind the boat for sailfish. And unbelievable fight, unbelievable rod, booked, Fish MHX.
All right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was awesome. I mean, to see, so for those of you guys that don't know, that's Taylor and Guffey. So they're the guys that are in the war room, part of the marketing team, of course. So the best part about that is they never caught a sailfish. Neither one of them.
First one.
First one for both of them. So that's why you saw there at the end. For those that know, if you catch your first billfish, you're going in, period. That's it. There is no question. You can go in out there, you can go in at the dock, but it doesn't matter, you're going in. So, and of course, on a release fish, like we did, we released both of those fish, of course. On a release fish, you always fly a flag upside down. So we told them, we were like, you got no choice. You both are going in. Get your flag upside down and take a dive. So, and of course, the true hero of that, I think, though, was Jay, who you guys saw in the video there. We asked Jay, I said, I don't know, man, I bet it'd be pretty cool underwater. 10 seconds.
He's in.
His shoes and shirt was off. He had the GoPro, and boy, was in. So we didn't even have to ask him twice. So, and of course, we're fishing in 100 and, I think they both caught their fish in between 175 and 150. Which thankfully is only like 6 miles off, you know, Stuart. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, the real hero of that whole deal was this rod blank right here.
You mean this rod blank?
That rod blank. Yeah,
Yeah, the same one.
And that one. All right, so the FP 937. This is the saltwater version. That's the bass version. Tell us about it.
So, I see you brought yours in. This one looks like it's been through quite a few days on probably Toho and Kissimmee and,
Probably.
you know, put a lot of work in.
Yeah.
But I think we've talked about our general like setup for flipping rods before. We have our weighted butt cap down here. This is the AFB fighting butt.
Yep.
Weighted aluminum fighting butt. You have your ECSM, your wind grip. Pretty simple from there. See where the black wraps come back into play. You got your, I think that's the Fuji.
That's the surf casting.
Surf
guy.
casting. That looks like maybe a 4 and a half, 5.
It's actually a 5.
A 5. And then down to 4, or number 4 micro guides, all the way out to the tip.
All the way out.
Just simple, basic, gets the job done.
Straight 65-pound braid to a, when I use the FP 937, it's always 1.5 ounces and above.
Right.
Because if I'm using a 1 ounce, a 1 1/4, or maybe a 1 1/2, because sometimes, you know as well as I do, you got to put a 2 ounce on that one, so then you got to put a 1 1/2 on the 936,
Right.
and then you can pretty much run them in tandem. But yeah, anything that is a 1 ounce to a 1 1/2 goes on the 936, and 1 1/2 and up goes on the big dog.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah. And then you got
And
the
then
same blank.
that's
but
this.
The saltwater version.
Saltwater version.
Or the saltwater build, I guess you should say.
Exactly. So what we did, and you know, sometimes we look back and you're like, man, I really would change something. On this, I teeter back and forth on if I would change anything or not. Literally the only thing I would change is I would put the rubber gimbal on here. I put a doorknob on here really just because I was like, yeah, we'll just use it because we're using this for a pitch rod a lot. And it's still what we did on this trip. That's how those guys caught those fish because, you know, you have some rods that we were running like I was saying, the power tip. We actually had the 78M, which is the 6.6 version, and we had the 84M that we talked about here with the Cork grip. Those had the gimbals because they were living in the rod holders and we were trolling. Now, when you're around dolphin, when you're around sailfish, when you're around weed lines, when you're around stuff like that, if you don't have a pitch rod, you're really hindering your catch rates, because what can happen is a fish might come in to look at a dredge, if you have a dredge out. It might just come in to see what kind of props you're running before it checks out. And sometimes when they come in and they leave, they don't go through the spread. It just happens. So if, you know, you got a 40-pound bull dolphin that swims up, says hey, and he turns around and goes out that way, if you don't have a pitch rod that is light in hand, it's got a little bit of moderate bend in it, you can pick it up, you've got your thread fin, cigar minnow, pogie, whatever, your mullet, you could just take it and do a light pitch out. That bait will hit the water, and usually it's over at that point. Again, we were fishing circle hooks, so when Guffey and Taylor both, they caught it on the same rod. It's got the touch, it's got the feel. I think Guffey said, like, they pulled up, they put the dredges out, and he took his bait and pitched it out, and it was like 4 Mississippi. He didn't even flip the bail, and the line's just coming off. So it's perfect. But again, I might put a gimbal on this one just so that when you put it in rod holders, it doesn't want to kind of walk around. But, you know, this one is a good one to have, especially if you notice we were fishing 2 bay boats, so we weren't on some big sport fishermen. So a lot of the times you've got to have a versatile rod blank that, you know, I mean, technically you could catch bait on this rod too. It's a little long for the sabiki. We typically use the 885, which is just kind of the younger sibling of this one, because it's only 7.4. But yeah, you know, when you can do a lot with just a few rod blanks and a few rod builds on a 22-foot bay boat, it's great. You can't have 40 rods on that boat.
Right.
So might put a gimbal on this one. This is just your doorknob. But what I want to talk about this setup is the vertical jigging rear, because if you notice, this is a very thin diameter. This diameter is not your typical saltwater rear grip. Your typical saltwater rear grip is much thicker than this. And what ends up happening is, for me, if you've got a really large OD grip and you're on a boat like a bay boat, and even when you saw me fighting that fish around the bow, because what can happen is I went to the bow and we left baits out because we're slow trolling. I'm fighting the fish, another rod might go off in an instant, you know, and you've seen, you'll have 2 sailfish show up, 3 sailfish show up. It happens. So as soon as you hook a fish, you know, because you can go to the front of a bay boat or you can do that, you can't always do that with a sport fisherman, but you also have a captain that's doing nothing but maneuvering the boat. So, you know, I can take this rod and get out of the way, and I can hold it and go under another line, over something, around somebody, pass it off. It's very easy, it's very lightweight. The smaller grips actually help with that a lot. So use the vertical jigging grips back here. They come in a couple different lengths. And then just your standard barrel seat. This is an 18 or a 20. I can't remember what that is, but it's just a standard graphite seat. We were using Daiwa BG 4500s. Those hold 300 pounds of 40 braid. Working backwards, like we were saying, I knew what reel I wanted. I wanted a reel that would either hold 300 to 30 or 300 to 40. We run both sizes. We'll run the 4,000 size for that. You can also run a 6,000 size Shimano. The Saragossa is a great reel for that. It's about the same capacities. And then with the braid, you know, you'll just run your double line down to your 40-pound fluorocarbon or 60-pound fluorocarbon, depending on what you're doing. This can also handle the business for snook around inlets, things like that. But, you know, working back, also wanted the vertical jigging foregrip here. It's got a nice little kind of swell here in the front. It's only a 7-inch grip. You really don't need all that much. I mean, you can be very quick and nimble with this, and then running it out, the LZRs, you know, they come in a kit. You can get them. We did a little bit quicker taper here with that, just because we knew exactly how this rod performs, whether it's flipping, whether it's pitching baits, whether it's catching sailfish, it really doesn't matter. So We ran a little bit quicker taper there, and then of course we ran it out in 8s to an 8 tip top there, and I mean, it's the deal.
Yeah.
Everybody that fishes this rod, you know, we handed it to the captain. He's like, I can't believe the diameter on this, and it's thin and it's light, and but wow, it really just, I mean, we wore out kingfish and bonita and of course the sailfish without even breaking a sweat, right? And the guy's like, wow, you know, what is this? And we're like, well, it's technically a flipping stick. And most of the time they don't really believe it, but it is what it is.
It is.
So,
you know, the guides as well make a huge difference when you're talking, you know, what is that, probably a size 30, I'd say? 25, 30?
yeah, depending on which reel I use, you can do 30 or you can do the 25, and you can do like the 25, 16, 12 kind of thing. You can do a 30, 16, 12, you know, that kind of deal. But again, just like working off the reel for everything else, you know, base it off of what reel you've got.
Yeah.
You know, because that 4500 BG is a pretty big reel.
Yeah.
You know, it's got a big face on it. It's got, you know, a lot of line capacity, and when you match it up with that, it's great. But if you do drop down and, you know, you can technically fish this with a 4,000 or a 3,000 if you're fishing more around bridges and things like that. But, you know, you could also do a pier rod with this and whatnot. But, yeah. So
And for the guys that like the more technical side of this, I know we've getting a lot more questions as far as materials and resins.
yes.
This FP937 uses it's the tournament Torre fiber,
Yes.
the 55 million modulus
Yes.
with the ultra resin system
Exactly.
from MHX. I mean, that alone, that's what keeps those diameters smaller.
Exactly.
But then you keep the sensitivity, the durability, and I mean, that for being 7'9", that lightweight is incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we're not having to add any kind of, you know, counterbalancing weight to this or anything like that, because, you know, then you get a hold of that, you know, that 4,000 to 6,000 size reel here. And it's incredibly nimble for what it is, and it allows you to do a bunch of different things. But I think, like you said, having that Torre fiber, that 45 million modulus, you know, you don't always get that high of a modulus in some of those kind of rod blanks. And, you know, when you look at the wall diameter, you know, the thickness, you're like, God, that's really not that thick. And then, of course, when you handle it, you're like, well, yeah, it's not that thick because it's not, you know, it's not that heavy. But, you know, being able to use that ultra resin system with the Torre allows us to create what you were saying, and then also make sure we provide the proper action in this, because that is also not only something that helps a little bit with the durability over the long haul and, like, you know, long fights and impact resistant and stuff like that, but it also provides the blank what it needs to perform in those very specific situations, which is something that is a little bit more moderate. You know, otherwise this rod blank would be completely different if it was a faster action, and, you know, the diameters back here would have to grow, and, you know, you get a little bit more weight, and then that's just, you know, then you're losing fish. It just gets into a whole nother animal. But yeah, that's why this FP937 it goes with us everywhere, pretty much.
I know personally I have a friend that has fished for pretty decent sized tarpon.
Yep.
With not necessarily the 7, actually. I think he used the 6.
I think he uses the 6 because I think he was using one of the Calcutta.
Yeah. Round reels.
One of the round reels.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, probably not after like 200-pound tarpon, but you know, even the 100, 150-pound range.
Yeah.
If you need to step up to the 7, the FP937, no problem. You know, probably make a great catfish rod, muskie. I mean,
yeah, because you can throw that.
Yeah.
That's what's very unique about that rod that you can't do with some other saltwater centered rod blanks, is you can pick that rod up and throw it. And like you said, you've thrown those giant spoons up on the Tennessee River. You know, some of the guys will throw those huge swim baits, you know, a 2-ounce swim bait, a 1.5-ounce swim bait. You know, you're actually casting those, casting it and able to work it and set the hook and do all that stuff that, you know, you can't do that with a lot of other rods. So yeah, I would love to see something like that, you know, in the hands of a muskie angler. you know, or in the hands of a catfish guy, something like that. That, you know, I think it could handle it for sure.
Yeah.
I'd like to test it. That's for sure. So, cool. All right, now we've got some questions that we need to take care of, don't we?
I think so.
So here at the end of the show, near the end of the show, we want to clear the questions off the board. So the guys this week have come up with a, what is it? Rapid fire Q&A session?
Rapid fire Q&A.
So rapid fire Q&A, so I got it over here. We got the graphic. And I think we just need to start top to bottom and go after it. So guys, you want to scroll up to the top there and we'll just...
I think we've hit
Here's
most
the
of
rule,
those.
maximum 30 seconds per question. We need to clear the board because we got to make way for the grand prize giveaway here. So, go ahead.
At what weight would roller guides be overkill? Chris. Chris, I'd say, and Chris, you might need to help me on this, maybe, gosh, I don't know. See, it's opposite. It's not overkill. It'd be underkill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's what weight would roller guides be overkill? Yeah, it would be the other way because they're never going to be overkill.
Right. 30-ish?
Well, I guess now saying that out loud, and of course we're running on a 30-second clock here,
Well,
but
I messed you up on
what
that.
way would roller guides be overkill? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't run roller guides on that FP937.
Right.
That would be overkill.
Yeah.
So I would say once you start to get into a 30-pound class rod.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're running like a TLD 25 or a 30 wide, that's it. We're getting it. Next question.
Cool.
Anything
All right.
over 30-pound class.
We've done Steve's question, Steven's question. We've already done that one.
Cool.
Yeah, these questions
What about
need to go.
rockfish? Are you doing rockfish?
Rockfish.
I'd like to build a rockfish rod for inshore fishing in San Diego. Any suggestions? Mr. A, I'm going to have to suggest to email us. Slide in here because I don't rockfish. So I need to know what you're throwing, where you're fishing, how deep. Give me a length. Give me something, you know?
John, are SIC or SIN guides a better choice? It all depends on what type of line you're using. Chris mentioned earlier SIN guides are preferable for if you're using wire.
Yes.
If not, I would just stay with SIC.
Yep, for sure. Cool. Don Lewis. When would you decide to use roller guides rather than ring guides? Don, as I mentioned before, anything when you start to get over 30-pound class, I would probably start to work in roller guides somewhere. So whether you go all roller guides or you just go roller to start and then turbos, because the turbos, they can handle it, the ring can handle it, the frame can handle it, but sometimes you need at least the first one to be a roller to get it up off the blank in case you got a really tall 30 wide, 50 wide, and moving on. So yeah.
John, did you find the spine, or as he said, spline, on these big heavy rods? Did you?
I do. Because we can go into a huge post 30-second argument about, you know, a spine on a bass rod, but if, yeah, I'm getting a don't you dare.
A big thumbs down.
Yeah,
on that.
exactly. But on these bigger rods, I'm typically fighting a fish from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, right over the top. So I am going to spine an offshore rod all the time.
There you go.
What you got?
William, did you use high build or low build epoxy on the FP937?
I use multiple coats of low build epoxy because I epoxy my underwraps and then also put another coat on for the top wraps. Plus I do multiple coats if I'm doing any decorative work because I like to make sure the bubbles are out and all that stuff. So multiple low build epoxy. You probably won't ever catch me with high build, honestly.
Patrick, would this be a good blank for mutton snapper and a moderate sized grouper, or would it be a bit overkill, the FP937?
I'm using it.
Yeah, I would use it. I mean, if anything, maybe it's a little bit long, depending on if you're just dropping down. But
maybe a little bit, but
it would work.
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're bottom fishing and you need to like work around outboards, that 7.9 helps, especially if you're sitting still. If you're trolling and that captain's not helping you keep that fish away from the transom, I'm not buying him a beer later. But if you're sitting on a wreck, maybe the 7.9 will help you get around the outboards or go over somebody else's head that's already on the bottom. So, and that's it
Yeah.
for rapid fire Q&A.
Boom.
Good job. All right. So we have some big stuff that you need to talk about because this is in your world. Not only do we need to give a grand prize giveaway away.
Let's do that.
Well, do we want to do that first? I want to make sure that they hear about this before people start leaving. Keep my eye on y'all. Before they start leaving after hearing the grand prize giveaway. So let's talk about it.
Okay, so we'll do this announcement first, then we'll do the last giveaway.
Perfect.
All right, so you guys have to stay around.
Yep.
So the big announcement, if you guys stayed the entire time, you're gonna be thankful you did because, well, I guess we'll just show right here, right? The video cutaway.
Absolutely.
All right, there you have it.
There you have it.
Sneak peek at our Labor Day sale, which literally starts right now.
Absolutely. Right
the
now,
website.
no one else knows about it.
Now, don't leave yet, because we still have the grand prize
Exactly.
giveaway.
Don't run over to that
But,
Labor Day sale.
as you guys saw there, 50% off OEM closeout blanks. That's Lamglass, Phoenix, Cowstar, Pac Bay. We've got 50% off the epoxy mixer right now, down to $17, $18.
Which you've seen us use that.
Yeah.
You got to get one. If you
have
don't
to.
have it, this is you cannot use, I don't want to spend whatever as an excuse because now it's 50% off, so get one.
Yep, 25% off all wind grips. That excludes handle kits. This is grips only.
Which is a deal.
And it includes the MHX wind grips, which are very popular. And also 25% off select aluminum reel seats and gimbals. A lot of cool CRB products in there.
A lot of the stuff we showed tonight. So the ALHDs.
ACLRs.
Yep, and then all your matching gimbals.
Yep.
I don't remember how many colors that is, but it's like 6 or 8 or something.
Six or seven somewhere.
Is
there.
it? Yeah.
5, 6.
So there's a color in there for you. Plus we've got matching additional hardware and like trim rings and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Also some cool fly seats, aluminum fly seats that obviously we don't have up here, but are 25% off in that sale. And lastly,
plus.
Very cool if you have not checked it out yet, our virtual rod building classes. We've discounted these by $50. They're now down to $149.
So if you haven't done a virtual rod building class, or maybe you've done one in person, but you need a little bit of a brush up, because honestly, if you've done one in person, they're great, but you got like 30 people in there with you, up to 40 people in there with the virtual rod building class. You've got guys like Buzz Butters and Cindy and Todd and, you know, Jesus and all those guys and girls that are professional rod builders that are literally sitting next to you at your desk. They're just over the internet. And you can show them things, ask them questions. They walk you through it. You know, I believe there's one going on right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you get the equipment to actually build the rod.
Right.
The hand wrapper, the accessories, the paste epoxy, the Pro Coat.
Yeah.
You get a lot of that essential stuff to build the rod, plus you get the components and the rod blank to build a rod.
Yeah.
And the instructional information, $150.
It's a no-brainer.
Yep.
It is a no-brainer. So do that. Yeah, we got Labor Day sale. Hopefully you guys liked the saltwater recipes, you know. We might work on the rapid fire Q&A thing. I don't know. Hopefully that went well, you know.
So yeah,
we'll see.
mudhole.com/Labor Day. Let's do the grand prize giveaway real quick, and then we'll do a little run through of all the Labor Day stuff again.
So they're going to get a choice of the FP937 multi-option rod kit. Now, I don't think we have a saltwater one, but we're going to put the exact saltwater one that we fish with together. Vertical jigging grips, LZR kit, the barrel seat. I'll even let you pick if you want a doorknob or a gimbal. How about that? Cool. But you either get the freshwater version, like a Flippin stick, or you get the saltwater, we'll call it the Sailfish stick. That's what you get to pick. And coming out of Facebook, who we got?
Jason Eshelman.
Jason Eshelman.
Jason Eshelman, grand prize winner. So you can get the Bass FP 937 or the Sail FP 937.
That's it.
Whichever you prefer to choose.
That's it. Awesome. So, we've done the saltwater recipes. We've answered questions. We've been charging your credit card all night. We've announced the Labor Day sale. I'm telling you, it's a heck of a show.
It is.
It's almost 8:15.
Yeah. And as we said, you guys, this is one huge benefit of watching Facebook Live, not only for the great information that we provide, right?
That you provide.
No.
I'm just here to talk.
But you get sneak peeks like this. This sale doesn't end tonight, of course. It goes all the way through until, I believe, Monday, Tuesday of next week.
Okay.
But, for example, the wind grips that are on sale, the CRB aluminum stuff that's on sale, that is whatever is in stock now, it's up for grabs. Once it's out of stock, you can't back order. You can't put it into your cart. So once it's gone, for now, it's gone until we come back into stock. But again, that sale will be over by then.
So y'all better get on it.
Yep.
And, we'll turn y'all loose here. Guys, thank you so much. Congratulations to Craig Hall for winning the unique saltwater handle kit. And, of course, Shark Teeth coming out of YouTube for that CRB Elite Turbo Guide Kit and metallic thread. And then Jason Eshelman. That's a hard decision, man. You got to pick. Are you going to be flipping for bass or you want to catch a sailfish? FP 937 will get it done on both sides of the coin. So, congratulations to y'all. Of course, the Mud Hole Live Rod Builders Workshop is 10,000 plus, and it's growing every day. It's growing by the minute. Thank you guys and girls so much for being in that group, being a part of that community. I know everybody that is a part of it enjoys it.
Yeah.
It's the world's best, for sure, without a doubt. So the pictures that you guys put up, the tips and tricks that you share with each other, the camaraderie of the group, it is great, and that's why it is the best. Pure and simple. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Are we missing anything, Jay? Maybe at the bottom of that list there? Is anything else? I don't think so. Other side, other list? All right. Well, for Taylor and Guffey, the Sailfish twins, in the war room, we've had Steve in there with them tonight. Of course, Hoffma helping us get everything set up. They've been working hard on the flyer and stuff this week. We had Jay and Nick, as always, on the ones and twos. And, of course, Hunter McCamey, my left-hand man. I'm Chris Adams. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for Mud Hole Live here from the Penthouse. Have a great week. Have a wonderful Labor Day, long weekend. Y'all be safe and keep those trim bands tight. We'll see y'all next time.
See you next time.
Take
Thank
care.
you.